You know what I need? Another hat. Even though it's been an oddly warm winter, and yet I can't leave the house without something on my head, so I'm dipping into my stash of scrap yarn to whip up a cozy crochet beanie. It's easy to make and works up quickly, but first, I'll show you how I turn those tangled yarn bits in my stash of scraps into a neat little cake. So stick around as I take you through the making of this scrap yarn beanie. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe for more crochet inspiration, tutorials, and tips. I'm thrilled you're joining me, so let's jump right in. Okay, let's take a look at what we've got in our basket and see what we are going to use for this beanie. So I think I might want to try to go for earth tones maybe. So not this fun yarn that I've been trying to find a use for this. So I don't know what I'll do with this one. And I'm sorry in advance if this whole situation triggers some anxiety for some people. This is not at all organized, so I might be doing some organizing as I look for yarns. I think this might be a color to use. Maybe I'll use a bit of this. I do want to stick with the same weight, and I think that this is a 3. I think I might actually be using some of these purples. I have a few. Throw in a bit of this. So far this is not looking like earth tones, so maybe this isn't the direction that I'm going with after all, but let's see. Maybe, no, not this. Now after looking at the purples, I'm like, maybe not earth tones, but we will throw in green. I think that will look really nice. Alright, I think I have enough yarns here, but I'm just going to put them all into this pouch so I can weigh them and see if I have enough. So I've got about 190 grams and it's plenty. So I think this is good, and I'm gonna start joining the yarns together and start crocheting. So to make my ball of scrap yarn, similar to how I made my scrap yarn blanket, I'm going to join the bits of yarn in, I don't really have an order of how I'm going to do this or a particular scheme. I think I'll start with one of the balls of yarn where I have most yarn, and I'm going to start winding it, and then I'll join to another strand of yarn. Of course, you don't have to make a ball of yarn beforehand. You could just start crocheting and then joining the yarns as you go along in your preferred method. I like to do the magic knot. There's a bunch of tutorials on how to do this. Essentially, you're joining the 2 yarn ends into each other and then pulling until you have this knot that is not going to come apart unless you start to pull these ends back the opposite direction. So don't do that. Just make sure that you keep this tight. Usually I would just snip this bit of yarn. For this particular project, I think what I'll do is just weave them in as I make my stitches, just so that I know that there's this extra bit of yarn for security, I guess. So this is how I'm going to start, just joining into this particular strand of yarn, and I'm going to bring out my yarn winder to start winding everything together. Okay, now that I've got my lovely ball or skein cake, I have a cake. This is a cake, and it even looks like a cake. Now I'm gonna grab my crochet hook, and I'm using a 4.5mm crochet hook. And this hat is gonna be worked in half double crochet in the back loops only. So for the size, I'm going for a length of about 11 inches or so and about 8.5 diameter. So to start off, I'm going to chain until I have about 11 or so inches. Okay, I've got my 11 inches and now I'm going to start to work my half double crochets into each chain. So I'm going to work into the second chain from the hook and half double crochet across. I'm just coming up to the first change in color, and it's always an exciting time because I'm always curious to see what it's going to look like with the colors now together. And I think so far I am liking this, but we'll see as the rows develop. And like I mentioned earlier, I am trying to sort of trap these yarn ends into my stitches as I work. As I'm getting to the end of this row, I'm actually thinking I'm going to do maybe the last few stitches in single crochet instead, so that when it comes to the end of the hat and I'm closing it all together, I don't end up with this like really bulky, awkward looking kind of closure. I want to try and have it as smooth as possible, considering it is a crochet hat. So I'm going to do one more half double crochet, and then the last 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the last 5 stitches are going to be worked in single crochet. So I'm at the end of the first row, and now I'm just going to chain 1, and since these last 5 stitches are worked in single crochet, then I'm going to start the row by working in the first 5 stitches as single crochet. And for this particular project, working in the back loops only, I like to start the first stitch in both loops. So I'm going to work 1 single crochet into both loops of the first stitch, and then the remaining stitches are going to be in the back loop. So I've got 4 more in single crochet, back loop only. And then the rest are half double crochet, back loop only. Yep, so far I like this. I like this really bright green and lilac or purple. I have no idea what any of these colors are except this bright green. I know that this is a discontinued Bernat Super Value, I think, or maybe it's Red Heart, I don't remember. It's one of those, and it's called Glow Worm. And I know that one, this particular color, I just remember the name of it because it's one of my favorites and it's discontinued, and it just makes me so sad. But I am glad that I'm able to incorporate it into this beanie. I think this might be one of the very last bits of this color that I've got. So I want to make sure that I use it to the fullest. And as I'm getting to the end of this row, I'll work this stitch in half double crochet, half in the back loop only, and then the last stitch I'll do half double crochet in both loops. And there's our second row done. Okay, next row, chain 1 and half double crochet into the first stitch in both loops, then half double crochet in the back loop only. And I'm going to do this all the way across, and in the last 5 stitches, again, I'm going to single crochet instead into the last 5 stitches, and in the last stitch I'll work in both loops. So I'm going to continue to work on that and enjoy the different color changes as they happen. It's early, but I really want to continue working on the multicolored beanie. This is how far I've gotten so far. I am really loving these colors. Like, this is a combination that I didn't know could go so well together. And there's just different vibes going on in this entire thing. Like, this is a very Halloween-esque. And then here's another combination that I didn't know I would like. Is this orange and pink. So this is how much I've done so far, and I would say I am about halfway. And here's how much yarn I have, which I think this should be enough. And yeah, I can't wait to see how the rest of these colors go with what we have here. I'm liking this so far, though. It looks great. All right, so I am stopping here because this is how much yarn I have left. So I think that this is good. Just going to make sure that it fits snugly but comfortably around my head. And I think I can still fold the brim and have it not squeeze my head too much. But I think this is good. So now I am just going to join these seams together and then close the top. To join the seam, I'm using my yarn needle to do an invisible seam. You can also join the seam with a whip stitch or use your crochet hook to slip stitch or single crochet through both layers. Now to close the top. Again, with my yarn needle, I'm basically creating a drawstring effect by weaving the yarn behind and around every other row all the way around until I reach the beginning. Then I just pull tight on the yarn to close the hat. To secure the closure, I'm adding a few stitches and making sure there are no gaps. Then I just feed the yarn underneath and tie several knots with the yarn tail from the first row I worked, and finally I use my yarn needle to weave in the ends. And there you have it. My cozy scrap yarn beanie is complete. Oh, and I decided it needed a pom-pom because, well, why not? I crafted one out of more yarn scraps and I have to say, it's the best pom-pom I've ever made. Perfectly full and spherical. Usually my pom-poms are a bit, well, patchy and falling apart. So what do you think? Do you love it as much as I do? Share your thoughts in the comments and let's chat. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more scrappy crochet content. Thanks for watching, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video.